Good morning, students. Today we're continuing our short story unit, and we are going to be reading something that I think is very topical and very timely, so I hope that you like it. Let's get started. So here I am on our class blog, just like I always am. Go Cardinals. And today we are going to be reading a short story called Olukoye, which is by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. So she is a Nigerian author. We've read some other things that she wrote. And we're going to be reading a short story of hers today. I think it's a relatively new short story as well. Our standard today is RI 1, cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. And our learning target says, I can read and understand a short story about vaccination and apply that knowledge to articles about a coronavirus vaccine so that I can discuss my feelings about vaccines with my family. So we are talking about some big and maybe kind of heavy stuff today. For our activator today, I'm going to ask you guys to watch a cartoon. So we're going from heavy stuff into cartoons. So this is a TV show that my 6-year-old absolutely adores. It's called Ask the Storybots. It's on Netflix, so you can go watch it on, if you've got streaming service on your TV, you can go watch it there. If you don't have a Netflix account, the full episode is right here on YouTube. So you can watch that right here. And the episode, it's season 2, episode 8. My cat is behind me opening doors. It's not a ghost. It's my cat Schrodinger. Anyway, it's season 2, episode 8. It's called How Do People Catch a Cold? And it goes into the science of how viruses spread from person to person, and then also how your body fights off those viruses. It's very comprehensive, and it's presented in kid-friendly terms. So you might feel a little like it's a little bit babyish while you're watching it, but to be honest, I kind of enjoy it when my kids watch Storybots, and believe me, I have really become a connoisseur of children's television over the past couple of years. All right, so today we are reading the short story called Olukoye. So after you finish watching Storybots, come and follow this link to the short story Olukoye. This is where it takes you. This is from a magazine, Medium magazine. This is a section they do called Matter. And this is the story. It's got a little illustration here. So it's a pretty short read. It's a pretty easy read. And the plot of our story is we've got a mother who is giving birth. She's in labor, and the midwife, she announces to the midwife that, sorry, my cat's punching my computer again. She announces to the midwife that they already know the name of the baby, and they're going to be naming him Olukoye. Olukoye is not a common name that this woman would likely give her child. And so the midwife asks the question, and the mother narrates what's going on. We're just going to hold the cat. The mother narrates and explains why they've decided to give this child this kind of uncommon name. Now, the kid is named after someone. He's named after a famous doctor who brought vaccination to Nigeria in the 1970s. The story is set in Nigeria. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is Nigerian. Before this Dr. Olukoye brought vaccines to Nigeria, many babies died of vaccine preventable diseases like measles or whooping cough, pertussis, that's the word I was looking for. So if you would like to read a little bit more about this doctor, I have linked to him here. This is the Wikipedia article on him. You don't have to read about this, but if you find it interesting, there's some extra background reading for you. So while you read this story, obviously you will notice that the mother was very affected by how vaccination kind of changed life in Nigeria, how it changed life for her family, and how it became something that really changed the world. So it's very much a celebration of vaccines. So that's a perspective that I want you to consider while we talk about the rest of our lesson. So I've linked for you a couple of more articles that I want you to read today. The first one is from publichealth.org, and it explains how vaccines work. So this is kind of the science behind it. It's nothing political. It's just how does a vaccine work? What's the science behind vaccines? And it talks about several different types of vaccines, live attenuated vaccines, inactivated vaccines, and so on. It gives you the advantages, the disadvantages, and like that. So this gives you a very comprehensive overview of what's the science behind vaccines. Now, of course, the reason why we're talking about vaccines and why this is so important right now is because we are currently in a race for a coronavirus vaccine. Now, a coronavirus vaccine is a little bit controversial because the coronavirus has been around for what, a few months, and we don't have we don't have a vaccine for it yet, obviously. And to get a vaccine for a brand new disease within a few months, within a year even, is kind of insanity. It's never happened before. The quickest development of a vaccine in history has been like 5 years. Now, granted, science has advanced a long way, and obviously we have a lot of pressure on ourselves to get this vaccine to market quickly because of the pandemic. But there's still a lot of questions up in the air. So that's why we are going to read 2 more articles today. So after you've read the short story, you've looked over the public health and kind of understand how vaccines work, I want you to read this article from the New York Times. The New York Times is really good about updating their articles. So this article came out in April and it was updated again in May. And as things change, it will continue to be updated. New York Times is providing free coverage for all their coronavirus stuff. So if you don't have to worry about like a paywall on these articles or anything like that. So this article, the headline is More Coronavirus Vaccines and Treatments Move Towards Human Trials. And it's talking about what is going on with the development of the coronavirus vaccine and how things are moving towards human trials. What looks promising, what does not look promising. So this one is this one's again a pretty positive thing. It's talking about how these vaccines are being developed and how there's a lot of really good science going on here, and just sort of explaining, it looks pretty good. You read this article, you'll come away thinking this looks pretty good. Okay, so keep that in mind while you're reading that. You might want to consider the media bias that we've talked about a lot in class. Okay, but we're not done yet. After that one, I have a question for you to consider before we move on to our next article. So obviously, it's right here on my screen, obviously a vaccine for the coronavirus, that would be a welcome miracle. But what do we sacrifice in terms of safety to develop a vaccine faster? It kind of leads us to a question of, how do you test if a vaccine actually works? Do you give someone the vaccine and then purposely try to infect them with a virus that could kill them? You can't do that. That's unethical. You can't accidentally on purpose kill people because your vaccine you're developing didn't work. So how do you test if this is even working? What do we sacrifice in terms of safety? Do we ask for volunteers, and then once we have a vaccine that we think works, who gets it first? So there's a lot of questions to consider here. And then while you're considering those questions, I've got one more article for you to read. This one's from National Geographic. You might have to make an account on National Geographic's website. It's free. It takes like 2 seconds, but it is annoying that you have to make an account. But this one's from National Geographic, and the headline is Why a Coronavirus Vaccine Could Take Way Longer Than a Year. And this goes into the science behind how they're trying to develop this particular vaccine and why the ones that are in trials right now, why the ones the New York Times are talking about, why that's moving so much faster than any other vaccine in history. It's because it's a different way of vaccinating people. It's a different type of vaccine than what we've had before. No other vaccine of this type has ever been successful. If the coronavirus vaccine that's being developed follows that pattern, then you go back to the other ways of developing vaccines, and then it could take way longer than a year. And again, if it's never been done before, now we're talking about stuff that's untested. So this gives you kind of a different perspective on it. And I've given you another question at the bottom here. Does this information change your perspective on how quickly scientists should push a vaccine through to the public? All right, I'm running out of time on my video here, so let me close this off for you guys. So for our closing session today, we're talking about big, heavy questions. So after you've done all this reading and you've thought about your own opinions, maybe written about it in your journal, I would like for you to go talk about this with a family member or a friend. Obviously, don't go see a friend in person, socially distant, but call someone on, hit someone on FaceTime or something like that, talk on Discord, or talk to your family or siblings, something like that. And I want you to discuss your thoughts on this vaccine. Are you going to be first in line to get it? Would you rather not get it at all? What do your parents think about it? So lots to consider, and we will talk later on this week about everything. Bye, guys.